Welcome to the Stack of Stats podcast. I am your host, Pam Maldonado, joined by my favorite tennis guy. I love chatting with him, and we have the French Open this week. Drew Dinsick, _capper on Twitter. You can find his stuff over at NBC Sports Bet and the host of the Deep Dive podcast. But Drew, it is the French. We are here to talk some ATP tennis, bringing you all the analytics. Are you excited? Because I'm freaking excited. How are you?
Absolutely. It has been several years since I was this excited for a men's draw in a French Open for a lot of reasons. We just haven't had this kind of excitement in a really long time. We haven't had like a true kind of, uncertainty at the very, very top in a long time. And we have had a really exciting 2022 season so far, largely because of the breakout of Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, frankly, like it's rare. Actually, I'll even go so far as to say this may only happen one time, as we are kind of in our lifetime of tennis handicappers, where we see someone break out to this degree over such a concentrated sample on the men's side at such a young age. Like literally the last time it happened was when Nadal did it. And I wasn't handicapping tennis in 2005,
Nadal 20 years ago. Yeah.
20 years ago. The next time it happens in 20 years, am I still going to be betting tennis? Probably.
Yes,
but
the
probably.
answer is duh.
But no, it's this feels generational, and it's pretty cool to be a part of seeing it coming. And my feelings about the draw kind of went full circle, I think. Right. And we can get to the draw specifically in a bit. But I was so excited to see what a second match between Djokovic and Alcaraz is going to look like. And if they were on opposite sides of the draw and it was a little less likely to happen, I was going to be nervous until we got there, And now that they would potentially meet in the semifinals, I feel like it's a little bit more likely that we're going to actually get to see that match.
It is. You're talking about how your excitement, your thoughts on the draw has come full circle.
Yeah.
Mine kind of has too. I would say about like 2 months ago, I was like absolutely dead freaking certain that Alcaraz was going to win this tournament. And then Djokovic came out and I was like dead certain that Djokovic was going to win the tournament. And then like Nadal never really came into a factor, but it's just like out of principle, it's Nadal. So like he's going to win the tournament. And then the draw comes out and then everything that I had was just like, wah, wah.
Yeah.
I'm
like,
whoa.
Man.
Okay, so now I'm having to like kind of recalibrate my thinking on this because I have different scenarios in my mind, of which the answer is okay, pod is over, there's no value, let's call it quits and just enjoy it as fans.
Yeah
It's kind
sure.
of my perspective at the moment, so I'm interested to get your takes. Let's just dive right into it. We're going to talk about each quarter because these quarters, the way the draw, whoever the tournament director is, shame on you. Shame on you for saying, this is going to be it. Everyone is excited for the French. Media is talking about it. Normals, people who don't watch tennis are talking about it. This is a super hyped tournament. The draw comes out. You have immediately the first thing you notice is world number one, Novak Djokovic, is in the same quarter as Rafael Nadal, who has won 13 titles here at this tournament. First off, let's kick off into that because that's the first quarter, yes. But Nadal, who holds 105 to what's his record? It's something insane, like 105 to. He has 3 losses. 3 losses.
Djokovic got him.
Open. Yep.
Robin Soderling got him, and someone I'm forgetting. There's really it's
105 to 3 win-loss record at Roland Garros. 13 titles. He's not the favorite. He is the third favorite. Rafael Nadal, the king of clay, who has a statue of him here at this event, is a 4-1 favorite, third behind world number one Novak Djokovic and 19-year-old Carlos Alcaraz. First off, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm fine with him. I guess I'm fine with the price. I think if you have to respect him for what he has done in his career, and you can't rule out the idea that he'll find some gear, some level. He may have been even hiding it for all we know the last 2 tournaments. I don't know that that's very likely, but maybe he has a 5th gear, 6th gear that he will deploy and be unbeatable this fortnight. I don't think it's very likely, though. I think when I think of Nadal as a player, I think of a guy who, one of the reasons he is so good here in general, in my opinion, is because this is the end of the clay season and he is an arc guy, right? Like he likes to play his way into form, build up, and, and coming into this particular tournament off of a long injury layoff and then two very underwhelming tournament performances.
Oh yeah.
I think he's not probably in the spot he would like to be to truly compete for this. I guess if we look at kind of a little bit broader, bigger picture on the Nadal 2022 year, it was a wild surprise that he won the Australian Open. Not even the outcome ultimately, but even how he did it was amazing and surprising and shocking. And so now seeing,
he himself was, because that time he
yeah,
was coming off of an injury break. So
yeah,
that's kind of the tale of two stories here. You have Nadal coming off an injury break to start the 2022, goes on a 20-0 win streak, wins a couple of titles, including a major, becoming the great one of, he surpasses Federer and Djokovic for most slam titles. And then
yep,
he gets another injury for his ribs. He takes off only 6 weeks, which is way shorter than what he had off in 2021
yeah,
to get to Australian Open. And then we only see him do 2 clay events. He has only 5 clay matches under his belt. He had a 3-set loss to Shapovalov in Rome, which is where that's the huge red flag of him in that third set against Shapovalov. He was grimacing, he was limping, he had to stop, he took a breather, he had
yeah,
sadness. Like it was
oh
just
yeah,
everything you never wanted to see from Nadal right before the French Open is what you got in that match. And it's like, you cannot, even if it is 4-1, even if he has 13 titles, even if he is the king of clay and has his own statue, 4 to
yeah,
1, I feel is not high enough for the
yeah,
risk involved in backing him based off of his draw.
yeah. You brought up the key match, which was the Rome. Some people will point to facing match point against David Goffin in
Oh, yeah.
Madrid, which was also bad.
Yeah,
he
they're exact same.
that was not great. That was not great from a form standpoint. Not great from an injury standpoint was the Rome ousting at the hands of Shapovalov. I don't care that it came at the hands of Shapovalov necessarily, and he was playing great that day. But there were stretches where he lost like 20 points in a row. And like a lot of them weren't competitive. And that's Rome is a dead analog for Roland Garros in terms of speed, in terms of conditions, setting, all of it. It's like a mini Roland Garros. So the fact that he wasn't able to dig down deep and find anything was concerning. And watching it live, I thought he was going to retire in that match. I was like, not retire from tennis if you're new to tennis. Retiring within a match just means conceding and walking off the course and giving up the win. I thought he was very, very likely to retire in that match just based on how physically weak he looked. And yeah, so it'll be he realistically, he in a vacuum should be the clear third choice here. And there should be a gap, right? I think fair for me is in the 6-1 range. And a lot of that fair is just out of respect because he is who he is.
Yeah. So then
I will
looking
say,
at the first quarter.
yeah, his draws. Yeah.
It's a very tough quarter. You have Djokovic, who is a -125 to win the first quarter. Nadal is a +150 favorite to win the first quarter. You also have Felix Auger-Aliassime, Diego Schwartzman, Grigor Dimitrov.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly the winner out of this, in my opinion, Djokovic -125. If you had asked me, like maybe even like 3 weeks ago, prior to this injury, I still would have said that Djokovic is coming into this with a chance to win the French Open. If he faces Nadal, great, I'm going to back him. Would you take then, if we're here on not backing Nadal, do you think
Yeah.
Djokovic at -125 to win his quarter is a good wager?
I think it's a tremendous value. I make it much, much higher than that. And
What's
the reason,
the highest that you would take? Because I'm looking at
like minus 250 ish, I think it should be like minus
Oh, wow.
250. Here's why. If section one, which is Djokovic's first 4 matches of this tournament,
Right.
is very weak.
Oh, yeah.
He is not dropping a set until week 2, if at all. this tournament, in my opinion. It is the perfect soft landing for him to work his way up into, into a very strong position. And then the first tough match he's going to have is whoever wins section 2, which is Nadal's section. Nadal has a third round matchup potentially against Van de Zandschulp, who is nasty on clay. Very tough guy to play. And then if he wins that, a fourth round matchup against Felix Auger-Aliassime, who has been awesome. His quarterfinal matchup against Djokovic was like eye-openingly impressive how good he was in that. And he was great.
In his game.
And so Nadal losing either of those two, round 3, round 4, entirely on the table. Nadal withdrawing because of injury, entirely on the table. And so if Nadal gets to that quarterfinal, which I only make about 75% chance that he does, he's going to be at 200. Djokovic, I would make him minus 200, minus 250 in that match.
I say it would be
so. Yeah, I think
Nadal doesn't withdraw.
Okay.
It's just in his DNA. Him and Federer, they'll lose the match before and let the winner feel like they've earned it, rather than, hey, I'm just gonna quit. So I don't see him retiring. I don't see him withdrawing. This is a major. This is his baby. He's not gonna do that. I do see that there is a potential, if things get bad, that he could just end up losing earlier. And then my prediction also would be to maybe even somebody like Felix in the fourth round. So my thinking on this was Djokovic at minus 125 only becomes valuable if Nadal falls early. If he were to face Nadal here in the quarterfinal, don't you think that there's a chance that Nadal is rolling pretty well? And because I'm on the same boat as Nadal, where he says, I don't have an injury, I'm fighting chronic injury. I have low back pain. I understand what he means. Some days my back feels great. Others day I have arthritis. Some days it feels great. Other days it doesn't, and I have to take a little bit extra rest, or I have to do like Epsom salt baths. So I understand his philosophy of, I'm not injured at the moment. This is an injury that is with me always. So if he's getting to the quarterfinal, there's a chance that he's still good.
There is. Here are the two arguments against why. Why, I guess, let's say in that scenario, the market makes that a 50-50 match. I will be all over Djokovic for these reasons. Yes. He will have taken less damage to get there. Yes. Right. He will, because just again, his section is easier, period. Yes. Like, he will be fresher, and that matters. He has done less, he has less miles this season. Djokovic does. Like, he didn't play, that he hasn't played. He didn't have the damage that Nadal got from the Australian and the Indian Wells, stretch. Like, that definitely hurt Nadal's chances here. And then, thirdly, I thought he was better on clay last season. Djokovic was better than Nadal. I thought he was the better player in their head-to-head last year. That was my biggest result of the entire tennis season, backing Djokovic against Nadal in that semifinal in Roland Garros last year, and nothing has changed. I think he's basically at the same level, if not even better, this year than what we saw from him last year, and Nadal is in worse form. So I think that's a pretty lopsided advantage in favor of Djokovic if we get that quarterfinal. So I don't mind taking minus 125 now. If for whatever reason it's minus 125 in that match, I will then double dip and get more on Djokovic, because this is a great opportunity for him to win a second straight Roland Garros title, which would be pretty wild.
I'm glad that you brought up 2021 season for Nadal, because that was my comparison, was that Nadal 2022 is kind of looking like Nadal 2021 minus the 2 titles that he won.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year he had a lot of blips because he had some confidence issues. He had his foot injury that was coming into play on some matches. He had double fault situations. All of that is coming to fruition this time around, except he has less time on court on clay this season than he did last year. He still managed to win both Barcelona and Rome, but his double faults led to a loss against Rublev to Monte Carlo. His foot problem led to a loss to Djokovic at Roland Garros. Yes, Djokovic was probably in better. I think that match was like a 50-50. If Nadal had not had his foot problems, he probably could have won. But clearly it was the same situation that he had against Shapovalov this year, where it was against Djokovic last year. It was his foot. his injuries were coming into play, and that's the problem that he had. So I'm with you. I'm on board. I like Djokovic minus 125. I haven't yet pulled the trigger. Now I'm probably convinced to do so. Because I
We
was
agree.
pretty convinced that pre-tournament, I was like, Djokovic is winning. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to everybody who has Carlos Alcaraz at a great fucking number, but it's Djokovic and he's winning. Like that's how
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
So then that's the first quarter. Looking at the second quarter, it's featuring Carlos Alcaraz. His odds to win the second quarter, insane that he's 19 years old. The second favorite to win the major, and he is a minus 165. Some books have minus 175 to win
Mhm.
his quarter. He's 19 years old and he has played only 15 total matches in majors.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
this big of a favorite. But that just tells you the significant progression that he has had in such amount of time, and the sports books respect it. You saw, I am holding. So here's my scenario that I wanted to bring out to you. We'll talk
Yeah.
about the quarters, sure, but here's my number one scenario. I have a Alcaraz 16-1 to win the French that I took after he won. What was it? The 250 event that he won in February. That's when I grabbed it. A lot of people have 12-1, 14-1, 15, 10, I think at worst like 10-1. Right now he is minus 165 to win his quarter. That value clearly is lost for him to win the tournament. We're talking about that we're already liking Djokovic. Minus 165, looking at his quarter, he has Alexander Zverev, Alejandro Davidovic Fokina, Cameron Norrie, who's about to win. Oh, he just won ATV Leon. It's a 250 event just now, seconds ago, defeating Alex Molkin. And then you have Sebastian Corda, who's in no way a threat to me.
Wow, it's a quick dismissal of the only man who beat Carlos Alcaraz on clay this year.
Did you not see? No, the wind beat Carlos Alcaraz on clay.
Okay.
Not Corda.
Okay. He was coming off of Miami, which was
hard court into
yeah.
clay court, totally different surfaces, different speeds, and then the wind. It was like 35 mile per hour plus winds. It was horrendous. But anyways, back to the second quarter. Carlos Alcaraz minus 165. What do you think?
Yeah, there's no one really that scares me, but I'll caution people with that kind of a price for a player who still has to kind of figure out Grand Slam, kind of format. We have seen one quarterfinal appearance for Alcaraz in his life, and it was at the U.S. Open last year. And by the time he got there, he was gassed, right? He
played the quarterfinal.
What's that?
He didn't play the quarterfinal.
Yeah, well, he took the court, but yeah, he retired at 3-1 in the second, I think, right?
Against Felix in the quarter.
Yeah, he did he might have won the first set and then retired. I can't exactly remember, but regardless, the point is, you're right. He has played 15 matches in his life in best of 5. He has 10 wins in his life in best of 5 format. It is going to take a time to kind of figure out the right way to deploy his very, very incredible gifts over the balance of a best of 5 match in order to to defeat some of these players. And I think he is, between him and Djokovic, they have similarly difficult paths. Neither one is especially concerning until you get to a quarterfinal where you got to go up against a guy like Zverev potentially, but Zverev's section's not exactly easy by any stretch of the imagination. But presumably you face Zverev in a quarterfinal, which is tough, but you dispatched him so phenomenally easily in Madrid that he may look past that match a little bit and be thinking about a semifinal appearance against Djokovic. And a guy like Zverev could catch him sleeping. So I guess I will just say, I caution anyone about being so confident in Alcaraz based on what you've seen, because young players like this who break out at the best of 3 at the Masters 1000s level, you're playing every single day and your legs are fresher because you're young. Like that, those players tend to get a little bit overrated when we get into the best of 5 format, and it's much more of an endurance battle. It's much more of you're playing every other day, so you got to figure out how to recuperate, how to you got to spend your time wisely and planning for your opponent the next time out. There are a lot of things he's going to have to learn.
and
Yeah,
it tends to rain a lot. So there's a
true.
potential here because we've seen it every year. There's a rain delay, so now you're playing back to back days, or you're playing like 2-3 days later. The schedules get thrown off because of the weather delays that potentially could happen here in Paris, France during a rainy season. So that could also come into play.
You're absolutely correct. And I would say that, yeah. So just basically what I'm saying is if there is no question that he has played the best tennis of any player we have seen on earth in 2022.
Yes.
The results speak for themselves. You can't argue that. But the idea that he is going to be able to flip a switch and do it on this stage without, at least one kind of experience, run to kind of point to, I think is a lot to ask of him. Ultimately, he wins this quarter probably in 65% of the time, 60% of the time, some high percentage of the time, he is winning this quarter, and he is playing Djokovic in the semifinals. And I think, a lot of us who care about tennis think of like that's your title match.
Right. So here's what I think about Tsitsipas, it's not Tsitsipas, Carlos Alcaraz versus Djokovic. So one thing that people tend to, I say, not weigh enough heavily is Alcaraz has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, his stats alone say everything. I mean, he's defeated 6 of the top 10 players, but only because he hasn't played like 2 of them. And when one of them is like Daniil Medvedev, so like I'm sure he would handle him easily, just a baseliner. But he's defeated 6 of the top 10 players. He's won 4 titles this season, 3 on clay. I mean, there's just like nothing that you can say about him that already hasn't been said. But Alcaraz is the most complete player above Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer. You've combined all of their talents, all of their strengths, and put it all into one player named 19-year-old Spanish player in Alcaraz. That's him. That's his ability. However, this is a best of 5. So you're talking about skill set is one thing. Mindset heavily has to go into your handicapping when you're talking about a best of 5 tournament. Because if you are down 2 sets to love in a best of 5, are you going to have the mental composure to say, I'm going to take this to 5? Somebody like a Novak Djokovic, who we have seen do that exact same thing, down 2 sets and make it a run. Or like Dominic Thiem, who has the mental mindset, makes it a run. Or if you are up 2 sets to love, are you going to have the mental composure still on the other side of it that says, I am not going to let my foot off the gas. I'm going to keep this aggression up and close it out in 3. Or are you going to fall all over yourself like Stefanos Tsitsipas, who's up 2 sets to love and then loses in 5? You kind of have both sides of it. Mental mindset, mental toughness really matters on clay because you're getting broken, but then you can break back. The rallies are longer. Stamina comes into play. In a best of 5, it could end up especially against Djokovic, in a mental war of it's a battle of attrition. Like, who's going to come out with the victor? And I'm going to give the edge 100% of the time right now to Novak Djokovic against Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinal, if that were to come into play. And that's what my little videos, my 1-minute analysis have been about. Is there is a lot in that first matchup that we saw in Madrid. Was it Madrid?
Yeah, Madrid semis, the Madrid semis. That best clay match of the season by far.
That was the best clay match of the season. This was Djokovic, who hasn't had that many reps, but he found his rhythm just in time, and he was this freaking competitive to beating the best player in 2022, having less reps, less time on court. But why? Because he knows exactly what to do. He knows when to bring the pressure situations. He knows how to apply that pressure situation. It just so happened that he ran out of time. It was 7-6, 7-6, 7-5. Like that was the match, and it was incredible. But there was opportunities there that Djokovic, if you rewatch that match, you will 100% see that Djokovic had his opportunities to win the match. You give him an opportunity in 5 sets, I think he can find a way and get it done. It would have to be Carlos plays absolutely perfect tennis and have everything go his way for opposite to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly correct. And honestly, I think the Yeah, technically Alcaraz won that match in Madrid, but that was a draw. That was a draw. Like they were dead even at that point, and now the conditions get a little slower, which to me I think actually favors Djokovic, mostly because he has more time on this speed course. I actually like people see the Spanish flag next to Alcaraz. They see they have heard or are willing to compare him to Nadal, right? Alcaraz is a player, to me, his game is better on slow hard even than it is on slow clay, on which is why him winning Madrid makes sense. This was basically fast clay. I think a slower surface now with Djokovic has a slight advantage over him neutrally. And then everything you just said, the experience and just in general, the format itself all helps lend, all of those things point in check, Djokovic. And I honestly, he's playing even better. I think his run in Rome you've seen a higher level from Djokovic coming out of Rome than you even saw in Madrid, because he has built up to this point. His season was derailed early on, and it has taken him a while to get here. So I think Djokovic has the edge in that head-to-head for a lot of reasons. I think he's more likely to get there personally. I think he is, and then once there, I think he has basically every advantage you want to turn a coin flip into slight advantage Djokovic.
Yeah, and everything you said, that he has Djokovic has the fresher legs because he's played less tennis in 2022, which initially, you asked me like a month ago, that could have been a hindrance. But now, based off of his draw, it could actually be a benefit because Nadal, all of his time on court has led up to where he is, which is not in 100% full form. Alcaraz, we did see he potentially rolled his ankle, and that's why he took some time off, and he's coming off with a 2-week break. He's young. I'm sure he's going to be fine.
Yep.
Saw him playing golf in his off time. So it seems like the ankle's going to be good. He had a thumb issue because he fell on his hand when he was catching his fall, but that's probably going to be fine. Healthy young bones. He can just get up and jumpstart again, but maybe just the time on clay. Like, he has fresher legs to be able to withstand a best of 5 against Nadal and or Alcaraz.
Yeah. And end of the day, in the last year, Djokovic has won 19 best of 5 tennis matches. In his life, Alcaraz has won 10. The lifetime best of 5 for Djokovic, you want to guess how many wins he's up to? 351. He has won 351 matches in this format. Alcaraz has won 10. At that disparity, you can't get past ultimately. And I think and like I said, the court speed, this may not be ideal conditions for Alcaraz. His killer shot, his killer weapon was the drop shot. And if you don't think Djokovic, has a plan for that, then I have bad news for you. Like, he very, very well can defend that. In fact, that's one of his go-tos, so he knows that quite well. Yeah, I mean, we may look back after this tournament is over and kind of be in a little bit of shock at the prices we got on Djokovic. Plus 250. Like, shouldn't he be like around even? He's the best in this field by a lot, in my opinion.
So we'll talk about the win. Finish on to the third quarter. Then this is another super easy quarter for me to like just decipher from. The odds to win the third quarter, you have Stefanos Tsitsipas minus 155, Casper Ruud 3-1 favorite, Hubert Hurkacz, Holger Rune at 14-1, and then Alex de Minaur 16-1, and then it just goes on. But Tsitsipas, how does he just not walk into the final in this path? Potentially the only player that he's going to face that could be a test to him won't come until the quarterfinal, and that would be against potentially Casper Ruud, who holds a 5-16 win-loss record to top 10 opponents. What do you think about the third? What do you think about Tsitsipas minus 155? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it should be higher. I agree. I mean, the only thing stopping him from making a semifinal is himself. If he specifically loses focus and or looks past an opponent and or like is lacking interest or gets hurt. I guess they're all X factors though. They're not real. They're not like he has a schematic advantage against every other player in the third quarter, and it's pretty sizable in my opinion. I would have make him about minus 250 against Rude if that's your quarterfinal. And I think so I think the price is a little low on him, but not like crazy low to win the third quarter. If you like him to come out of the third quarter, you have to like him to reach the final, I think, because that fourth quarter is the weakest by far.
Yeah. And I love that bet. And that's going to be one of my best bets. Tsitsipas, the odds just came out this morning on Reach Final Bets. It is plus 150 for Tsitsipas to reach the final.
That's wild. See, if he wins the third, it doesn't make sense. That math doesn't make sense. If he wins the third quarter, he's going to be minus 800 in the semis.
So glad you were saying this because I'm like, what am I missing? Why is it plus 150? What am I getting wrong? What do you know that I don't? Who's going to be the player that causes Tsitsipas to fall in what should be a walk-in? Is it Casper Ruud? Is it David Goffin? What if Goffin does happen to beat Ruud? I don't know. I'm not impressed with Ruud this season. He hasn't really done spectacular. Last year he was winning all of the titles. This year he's trying to still find his rhythm, find his groove.
He's getting pushed by he's about to lose to Joao Sousa. Wow.
Geneva, wow. This moment, he's down a break in the third set.
Sousa winning a title out of nowhere, by the way. Weird player. Anyway.
It may not even be Tsitsipas versus Ruud in the quarterfinal. I'm looking at his Demonar. Demonar has been a pretty great player this clay season.
Sure. Yeah, Tsitsipas, like the disconnect is between the quarter price and to reach the final price because they should basically be the same price.
Right.
Like if he gets to the semifinal, he is punching his ticket for the final, and that speaks to how weak the fourth quarter is. I think. I honestly I don't think this feels like a don't overthink it. Yeah, this feels like a don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. I just locked it in.
Yeah.
Plus 150 because I don't understand.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm with you. And honestly, what's another fun way to do this? What was the price you got again?
150.
150. Okay, so it's not better. I like stage of elimination. If you can get like a runner-up price in the plus 200 or plus 250 range, that would be fun too. Like that basically says he gets there and then loses. Like I think that's like basically
runner-up is 3-1.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I like that. That's very fun. So Tsitsipas. So what you're saying basically is that once Tsitsipas clinches the third quarter, like the rest of his tournament, in my opinion, is written in stone.
Right.
He wins the third quarter. He then wins the semifinal and loses the final. I mean, it's his kind of outcome here feels more determined than anything else we've talked about. Honestly, I think he's going to be your runner-up. If you can get that 3-1, that's a great bet.
Well, let's not forget. So here's my thinking on this. So, all right. So here's scenario one. We're talking about scenarios. In the fourth quarter, we'll get to the fourth quarter here in a minute, but we'll talk about scenario one. I myself, this is to anybody who follows me on Twitter, has a Carlos at anything between 12-1 to 16-1 to win. But that was just pure money grab. I never said that I'm confident he's going to win, and that's not what futures is about. You take futures bets because you have a huge indication that the line is going to change and you're grabbing value. Well, I have 16-1 and he's now the second favorite. So yeah, talk about value. Do I expect it to close out? No, I could be hopeful, but it's probably unlikely. Tsitsipas, I also have him at 7-1 that I took in March because I typically already count in my head based off of the seeding who's going to land where. And I figured 2 months ago, he's going to have an easy path to the final. It's going to be all about what side of the draw is Carlos going to be in.
Yeah.
That was my thinking on it. Well, it ended up working out exactly as such. So
Okay,
now, if
so
I have both tickets, Carlos
yeah,
and Tsitsipas, scenario one, I have no more futures 2 wins wagers to make. I'm done.
okay, that's fair.
Right?
There is so my sincere expectation here is Tsitsipas loses the final to whoever wins between Alcaraz and Djokovic.
Yes.
I think that's how this goes. And the Alcaraz and Djokovic again, we talked about it at length. I think I give advantage Djokovic.
Yes.
And if you have a huge Alcaraz ticket or a huge Alcaraz parlay, there are ways you can bet stage of elimination for Carlos Alcaraz, which to me is only one. He only gets eliminated
To Novak.
to Djokovic, right? And so stage of elimination semifinals for him, if you can get that at plus 200, that can cover a lot of bases, right? That gets you a lot of outs, in my opinion. You at that point, you're only sweating like a completely surprising, letdown before he gets to that semifinal, which is not not a non-zero chance that happens, or it is a non-zero chance that happens, but it's low. And at that point, I think, like I said, I think ultimately, I think Alcaraz makes his first ever semifinals, loses to Djokovic. I think Tsitsipas makes his second straight French Open final, loses to Djokovic. And I would bet into those.
If you had to
Alcaraz,
make
yeah.
one option, because they're essentially the same, Tsitsipas plus 150 to reach the final, or plus 300 to finish runner up. What is? I mean, that's exactly that's the same. That's the same.
Yeah. I mean, so basically,
It's not the same, but
it's not the same. There is a tiny sliver of probability that Alcaraz Djokovic semifinal is like an all-time match,
gassed.
and whoever emerges is on, it limps into that final.
Yes.
Like if that's like a 5.5 hour 5-setter with 4 tie breaks, right? Like if that is like an epic physical bloodbath, then the door is open for Tsitsipas in the final.
Let's not forget that actually happened last year at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, true.
Novak
Yeah,
Djokovic against
great point.
Alexander Zverev. They had a 5 hours, 5-set thriller. It was a fucking fantastic match.
Great
By the
point.
time that Djokovic got to the final against Daniil Medvedev, who had a walk-in, just like Tsitsipas would, Medvedev won in straight sets. Now, there was also the difference here that I will say. The difference between now and then is that one, Djokovic definitely played a lot more tennis last year leading up to that final event at the US Open than he has in 2022 because of his vaccination status. He didn't play the Australian. We already know that. So that could be one huge factor. Plus, he had the weight of the world on him about breaking the Grand Slam title and having the calendar slam and having the Golden Slam, and all of that extra added pressure could have also come into play.
Yeah.
He's not having any of that. He's had time off. He's not even in tied anymore for the most slams. Nadal has the heads up right now. So there's a lot less factors this time around.
Sure.
2021. But the fact that still he could potentially go in gassed, and then we don't know what that means. What does a gassed Novak mean in 2022? Because that's where it could come into play, where he hasn't played that much tennis. So he could actually be gassed. That's why he lost in the third set twice, 6-0, 6-1 to Fokina and then to Rublev, because he was tired.
Super, super, super tough case, though, because you can make a case that not having played tennis gives him more gas in the tank.
Okay.
Right?
So then basically this all leads up to, I would prefer Tsitsipas plus 150 to reach the final instead of Tsitsipas plus 300 to finish runner up.
Okay.
At the chance that
fair enough,
he steals it like Medvedev did at the US Open.
Here's my general
and he was up last year's Roland Garros. Tsitsipas was up 2-0 to Djokovic.
Here's my thought. Here's my thought. Even if that situation materializes, right? and we are sitting here ready for the final to start on a Sunday morning, and we're like, man, I really hope Djokovic doesn't like run out of gas in this match against Tsitsipas, right? Like, what's that price going to be to win the final in that match? That money line price is going to be like Djokovic minus 500. Yeah, he's going to be a big favorite. Like, you could probably get plus
minus
300 on.
500?
Oh yeah, after what people have seen
I would
him
say it's
to
closer to
do.
the 200 range, 250.
What was
I would say
I mean,
2
maybe, yeah. I'm
250.
thinking of kind of like Djokovic gets there, he beats Alcaraz. Like, people are just like, oh well, that was it. That was the final. He wins the
That was
title.
the
Like,
final.
that tends to tilt the market a little bit, right?
Right.
What
Now
was
it's overpriced.
What was Djokovic final price against Tsitsipas in Rome? Do you remember?
The money line.
It was like that was like a week ago, and my mind is just
It was
completely gone here.
It was 215. It was opened at 215 and it closed at 185.
Oh wow. Okay. So it's definitely going to be at best then 400, but probably more like 300.
Mhm.
Best of 3 tends to inflate the favorite like by about
Especially if
20%
happens
ish.
to not drop a set.
Yeah, right. If
After the
Tsitsipas
final
is
is
right,
easy
if
enough to
Tsitsipas
where
is there, yeah, sure. That's fair. That's fair. So okay. So I guess you potentially are sweating it out without an easy, obvious way to get a huge price to cover yourself if that's the
Right.
way it goes. Yeah.
So then
That's
I like
fair.
more conservative Pam, like Tsitsipas plus 150 to reach.
Okay. Fair enough.
But for the degenerates who like more value, Tsitsipas 3-1 to finish runner up. I like that.
I like to live dangerously. Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
let's talk about the fourth quarter. We're already talking about the winner. We completely skipped over the fourth quarter because you look at the fourth quarter and it's kind of like, who cares? It's like nobody.
Sure.
None of them are making it to the final. But it is still an interesting one. You have Yannick Sinner 3-1, Andre Rublev 3.5-1, and then you start getting into the longer shots. Miomir Kecmanovic 6.5-1, Medvedev 6.5-1, Pablo Carreño Busta 11-1. Medvedev is a non-factor. This is not his best surface. He has played only one clay match and he lost in straight sets. Coming back from injury, Rublev, he's 7-3 on clay this season. Sinner 8-3 on clay this season. All of them have their faults. None of them have like a huge strength that would catapult them into like a clear, in my mind, this is happening. This is going to work out. What do you think about the fourth quarter? Is there any value in any one player to win that quarter?
I was hopeful we were going to catch a price on Kecmanovic, but it didn't materialize.
What
He's like 10-1 maybe, and it's not close. Like he's that like the cat's out of the bag there. there's no catching the market by surprise on that one, unfortunately. Right. The it's easy to talk yourself out of a Rublev for a lot of reasons. It's very easy to talk yourself out of Medvedev for a lot of reasons. It's easier to talk yourself out of Sinner for a lot of reasons. Most of these are just
what I hated about Sinner. So here's my problem. I really wanted back Sinner. I was like, I like him. His game is so good. What I absolutely cannot get out of my mind is how he was just raped by Felix Auger-Aliassime, 6-1, 6-2 in Madrid. Faster surface, not entirely comparable to this, but Sinner is just so very off and on this season. He's very good. He had blister problems. He's retired. He's withdrawn. He's constantly getting his foot wrapped, and then he just got demolished by Felix 6-1, 6-2. I can't get that out of my mind. Like,
yeah, that's fair. And yeah, the form is the question for Sinner. Surely there's something going on injury wise. We don't know. Rublev, he's uninspiring, but ultimately he should probably get to the quarterfinals here. There's nobody good enough to beat him. I think he comes out of that section. Rublev would then face a Kecmanovic if he can make it out, a Carreño Busta if he can make it out, a Cilic if he can make it out. But it's going to be a weird player that makes it into that head-to-head against Rublev. So Rublev probably wins this quarter. I mean, it's not fun to say like this is the chalk's going to prevail here. But I think the chalk prevails across these 4 quarters. And if there's anyone that's especially if there's anyone that lets us down, it's Rublev. But I feel pretty lukewarm about that, honestly.
I did a video on the fourth quarter. This was my favorite long shot, and it's Kecmanovic. And I didn't love the odds either. It's 6.5 to 1. But like you said, cat's out of the bag with him. That people are aware. He does he's good on clay. What I love about him, and I think I'm holding on to this too much, is that Nalbandian is his coach, David Nalbandian. He is one of the best players of all time in tennis and ATP, and he is the only player to have ever defeated the Big Three sweep, where he defeated Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer in the same tournament, and it was in back to back to back. It was amazing. It was, and now he's coaching Kecmanovic, and you have seen the progression that Kecmanovic has made over the last year, and it's 100% contributed to his coaching. Now, what I don't like about Kecmanovic and what gives me pause about making this like a best bet, something confident, I myself, I'll be honest, I'm not wagering this. I did it more for like content purposes of like, if you want a long shot, this is the best long shot that I can come up with. And it's because of how well he can play. But what I don't like about Kecmanovic is that when he faces competition against lower level players, oh, he's putting them in their place and he looks great. Now you put him up against somebody where he's actually going to give him a competition, his mind phases and it fades. And there's been a couple of matches where he has literally given up and said you see a point where he made the decision of, I can't win this. And so he stops trying.
Yeah.
That is not the mindset that I want in a best of 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I can't argue with any of that, honestly. And he deserves a breakout. It would be cool if he kind of secures himself a top 10 spot, and Clay's where he's going to have to do it.
Yeah. So there's no value in the fourth quarter. We will leave that alone. Here's another thing that I wanted to bring up. Somebody sent me a message of, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think? They said they wanted to take a futures to win the tournament on Djokovic, Alcaraz, and Tsitsipas. What is your response to that?
I mean, one of those three players wins this 85% of the time, with the last 15% probably going to Nadal.
But based off pricing, does that even offer any value on a return?
No, probably. I mean, you're going to have to lay in a price like 85% price, which is what, minus 400, something like that, minus 500. Actually, sorry, it's my fare for one of those three guys is like minus 600. So you're gonna have to lay 600 to win 100 if that's where you're gonna go.
So there's no value in taking that. So I'm gonna respond to this DM and say, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, if you like those three players, you can bet them round by round to get to their respective stages.
Right.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, you bet. If you like one of those three players, then you've concluded what we've concluded. That Tsitsipas is getting to the final.
Yeah, exactly.
And that he either wins or loses to one of those two guys.
Yes.
That's what you
get. Right? If you are listening to this podcast and you do not have a single wager on the French Open, what's the one bet you would suggest for them to make?
Gosh, my favorite right now is the one we just talked about, where stage of elimination for Tsitsipas, runner up plus 300. It's riskier, but I think he gets there and loses. Like, that seems written in the stars to me.
And if you have only an Alcaraz futures that you took a couple months ago,
yeah,
what's the wager that you're going to make now?
Djokovic to win the tournament.
The entire tournament.
Yeah.
And he is plus 200.
Yep.
Right now to win.
Yep.
If you don't, and then that's it. So
I guess here's where I'm at. I've effectively talked myself down into this is a 2-man race.
Yeah.
Alcaraz and Djokovic, and I give Djokovic about 60% of the equity.
Right. No, I'm convinced too. And that's part of the videos that I'm doing of these analysis. I saw everything in that match where Djokovic knows exactly how to defeat Alcaraz. He just needed more time.
Yeah, he does.
And now he's getting more time.
Yep.
And he has a game plan. He's gonna take everything that he learned from that first set, from that first match up, and put it into this time around.
And more likely to get to that epic head-to-head. Djokovic is more likely to make it there. I'm serious, even though he has to go through Nadal.
The experience. Yeah. The experience
Experience
alone.
matters.
Are we discounting Nadal? Let's just say it one more time. Let's just like, are we, is there a scenario where he just like surprises everybody?
There has been 0.0 times in my life where I have seen Nadal be untruthful about how bad of a physical shape he's in.
Right.
When he's feeling good, you know it. When he's feeling bad, you know it. And he is feeling bad from what I can tell you from his Rome performance.
Right.
So I guess it would be an upset upon upsets because we've never seen Nadal like he's what's the right word, like he's never dummied us into submission on, oh, actually I was feeling great. No, that's not a thing. Like when he's peaking, it's an arc. You see it coming the whole freaking time. Like you can't miss it.
There
And
was
you're
I
just
took
not what I haven't
Shapovalov
seen it.
and I took Shapovalov against him because of his
Great play.
because of his candidness with how he is with his interviews. And it was his interview that told me, one, this is his first test of the tournament. Two, he hasn't really played much. And three, his interview said, I am an old car. He's speaking, he is telling you verbatim how he feels. He is telling you that it's no longer an oil change that he needs. It is a complete reboot. Like,
Yeah.
he's physically telling you, he's in his interviews, he's being so open and honest with how he feels, and he's hurting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's hurting to the point where it's making me question how much longer do we have of Nadal.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I think he getting that 21st slam in Australia was a little bit of a bonus for him, realistically. And I think we're probably entering a phase where we mostly just see him prep for and compete in this tournament in years to come. And then the rest of the calendar, he's recuperating.
Yeah, that makes sense. So to recap our best bets that we like, in order of confidence for you, well, it is going to be Tsitsipas plus 300 to finish runner up. That is the stage of an elimination bet. For mine would be Tsitsipas plus 150 to reach the final. I've already clicked wagered that. That's locked in and loaded. Another would be Djokovic minus 125 to win the first quarter, which basically means that he's either going to defeat Nadal in the quarterfinal or maybe even have a better chance if Nadal is eliminated earlier than that. You also like Djokovic plus 200 to win.
Yeah.
And then Alcaraz stage of elimination 2-1 to be eliminated in the semifinal because we're saying that he's going to lose against Djokovic. I'm less likely to like that one because there's a chance for me that we could see him blip like he did against Sebastian Corda, just because, I don't know, weather comes into play. It's windy. Maybe the conditions are too slow for him and he has a bad serving day. I'm not sure. I love him. I love Alcaraz. I love his potential. I just don't have yet the confidence that this is an absolute guarantee that this is what he's doing. This is where he's going. More confidence putting money into Djokovic than I do Alcaraz at this point.
We agree 100% on that. The most likely outcome for Alcaraz in this tournament is that he loses in the semifinal with Djokovic. The second most likely outcome for Alcaraz in this tournament is that he wins it all, which is insane. The third most likely outcome for Alcaraz is a quarterfinal loss to Zverev, where he gets caught looking past Zverev because he dominated him so completely in Madrid, and looking at a rematch against Djokovic in the semifinals. Mm-hmm. Right? You can kind of see that as a potential outcome, right?
Yes.
I'm probably going to bet against Alcaraz if that's that quarterfinal. Zverev Alcaraz. Mm-hmm. Not on the money line, but set price or something, right. Just in the off chance that Alcaraz isn't focused on that match.
Yeah.
I've seen this. The roadmap is there.
It is. And I think that maybe we saw, we saw it just last week. We saw it in Madrid. We saw it in Madrid where he demolished Zverev. but there was also a potential that Zverev was like, you know what, I'm okay getting second. I don't really want to try here. Carlos, have your moment, because he was more excited. It looked like in the photos, in the celebration, in the
Yeah.
champagne popping, that Zverev was just as excited, if not more excited, for for Alcaraz to win than Zverev was. Like, he was happy with the second place paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
I
is a
agree with
major,
that.
and maybe it'll matter a little bit more. But okay, so then those are the bets that I think we're going to be making. Well, Tsitsipas plus 300 to finish runner up. Myself, I made Tsitsipas plus 150 to reach the final. I am definitely hopping on board with Djokovic minus 125 to win the first quarter. Plus 200 for him to win. I already have Tsitsipas and Carlos, so that's not really anything that I should be taking.
I agree. I mean, we're like, that's the other thing. Final thought on all of this.
Yeah.
If you're going to bet into the futures market for the French Open, you can't really afford to wait until the draw, because so much of the market gets shaped by the buildup.
Right.
And that's where we're staring at right now.
Yeah.
You're not catching a crazy price on Alcaraz. Everyone knows he's the best player right now, on performing the best level. You're not catching a crazy price on Djokovic. Everybody just watched him demolish the field in Rome, right? You're not going to be able to catch a fade price on Nadal. Everyone knows he's hurt, right?
Yeah.
Like, once we gotten, if you have to be a little bit more aggressive in the buildup of clay season.
Right.
In the future. You have less of a buildup on grass, so you have a chance to wait for the draw for Wimbledon. You have a lot of questionable form among players when you get to the US Open, so you can wait there.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Australian Open, you have questions about form because players are all coming off of a huge layoff, so you can wait for there. The French Open is unique among major betting, where you have to fill out your portfolio in March, April, May, early May.
So then
You can't wait till now.
Lock in Djokovic minus 125 to win the first quarter. I won't touch his plus 200 to win the tournament futures, even though I'm convinced that this is going to happen. But just from a value perspective, I have Carlos, I have Tsitsipas. There's no point in adding that. I'm just gonna hammer Djokovic in his match betting, and
I like it.
extract value from that. And then that's it. So everybody, we've given you scenarios. If you have an Alcaraz ticket, if you have a Tsitsipas ticket, if you don't have any ticket, we have given you plenty of options. So make sure to watch here in the last half hour, breaking it down, the exact bets that we like and that we have taken ourselves. So then that's it. So you can follow Drew Dinsick on Twitter at whale_capper. You can see all of his stuff over at the NBC Sports Bet. And he's also host of the Deep Dive podcast. You can find that stuff over on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Pamela M35. Any other last minute thoughts?
Yeah, if you want to enjoy the women's side, bet Iga to win without dropping a set at like plus 600.
Ooh,
that's a fun one.
plus
Her best prices are long gone to win the tournament, but she should be able to win this without dropping a set. She's that much better.
Do not drop a set. If there was one woman to beat her that's in her draw, who is it? I haven't looked.
Trick question. There's none. No, she's gonna destroy Halep. Halep's way off.
I like that. Plus 600 to not drop a set for Iga Swiatek. I like it.
Yeah. That
makes sense.
There's no one. She's too good.
She is too good. Well, then perfect. I am so freaking excited for this French Open. I hope that it's going to give us everything that we asked for and more. The quarterfinals are going to be a thrill. And then I can't wait for the semifinals. And then hopefully then the finals maybe won't be as much fun. But at least we'll have some good matchups in the beginning.
This tournament's going to rock. It always does.
It always does. So thanks for tuning in. And that is another